The Holy Gospel of our Savior Jesus Christ according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord Christ.
Now, about 8 days after Jesus had foretold his death and resurrection, Jesus took with him Peter and John and James and went up on the mountain to pray. And while he was praying, the appearance of his face changed, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly, they saw 2 men, Moses and Elijah, talking to him. They appeared in glory and were speaking of his departure, which he was about to accomplish at Jerusalem. Now Peter and his companions were weighed down with sleep. But since they had stayed awake, they saw his glory and the 2 men who stood with him. Just as they were leaving him, Peter said to Jesus, "Master, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah," not knowing what he said. While he was saying this, a cloud came and overshadowed them, and they were terrified as they entered the cloud. Then from the cloud came a voice that said, "This is my son, my chosen. Listen to him." When the voice had spoken, Jesus was found alone, and they kept silent, and in those days told no one any of the things they had seen. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
We speak in the name of the one holy and living God. Amen. Please be seated. I have the distinct privilege this morning of not being your preacher. Instead, I get to hand it over to our young people who spent a week in Los Angeles serving the homeless there at 2 amazing organizations, one specifically for women with children, one specifically for men in recovery, all working to better their lives and to find their way to a place of stability. And our youth supported them in that endeavor, and we're going to say to them in advance, thank you for modeling for us how to live and to love and to serve in God's name. And thank you for being brave enough to share it with us today. And also thank you to Kate Fembra, our Director of Youth and Parish Life Ministries, who's been leading mission trips for many, many years for us. This is the 9th year she's taken youth to Los Angeles, and to our adult leadership who gave a week of their lives in service not only to the youth, but to the parish and to the world. So on that note, Kristen, will you take it away?
Good morning. My name is Kristen Weldy, and this was my 2nd year on the mission trip to Los Angeles, California. Each year we go on this amazing and life-giving trip. We always stay at a small yet magical place called St. John's Cathedral. Now, I haven't gone on this trip as many times as some of the others, but each time I never fail to notice how homey this place always feels. For example, every time our van pulls into the parking lot, I and the rest of us all internally and, to be honest, physically scream and jump for joy. This peaceful and sacred place instantly becomes our home for the upcoming week, with our leaders becoming the guiders of our faith, with the gorgeous piano on one side to our silly little immature little games on another side of the room. This place is home. This is where we each expand upon our relationships with each other and with God throughout the week. From the creaking old narrow hallway to the glorious and magnificent cathedral, this is our home, and there are honestly no words to describe how beautiful our relationship is. It just feels like we belong, and there are absolutely no limits to our faith. Now, this little church doesn't just mean something to us. It also means something to the workers and members at St. John's. It's almost like it's their mission too. I know this because while we were staying there, the workers, of course, would come check on us. Make sure we were doing okay. That itself was a very kind gesture for them to offer to us, and it was very meaningful to feel so at home in their presence. St. John's might be a small place, but the amount of faith this place has to offer to our group is truly extraordinary. Every morning, we would start our days off with the dreadful morning alarms our leaders had set the night before for 7 in the morning. After zombieing our way through group breakfast, as it was very early in the morning and we are teenagers, we all would set up 13 chairs in a circle to do a morning devotion arranged by Holly. Every day, we would have a new activity with new goals set for the day. Following our morning devotion, our group would all have to leave our home for the week in order to serve those in need. We would work very hard in the sun at the Alexandria House and then go straight to Midnight Mission, where we would prepare and serve hundreds of meals. After working hard all day for those who surrendered themselves to us, we would go back to St. John's to prepare and eat our dinner and do an evening devotion right before bed. I cannot explain to you how difficult it was to work hard and relentlessly all day only to be greeted by a cold tile floor to sleep on, when all you want to do is collapse onto a comfortable bed. People tend to not understand or be grateful for what they have until they don't have anything at all. I mean, you don't typically think of a comfortable bed as a privilege, but it really is compared to the people we were there to help, who had absolutely nothing at one point. It honestly was a challenge to give up our phones, beds, and of course showering for a week, but I can't put into words how meaningful it was. Each and every person that went on this trip expanded upon their faith greatly. As said before, we had devotions every morning and evening. These devotions were very important to me because it gave me a chance to set goals and have an idea of how I could help the helpless throughout the week. Earlier in the week, Holly had asked us what our 3 expectations or goals were for the week. When asked, my main goal was to make an impact on someone's life for the better. I wanted to make a difference and, of course, have fun doing so. My morning connection with God helped me remember my goals that I had desperately wanted to accomplish during my time in Los Angeles. I was constantly understanding more and more every day that I and the rest of the group were all sent on this amazing trip by God to connect with new and old faces who turned to us for help. I learned that I can always turn to someone. I, unlike some people, have a family and tons of people who care about me that are always there if I am in need. I have a bed to sleep in, a roof over my head, and even food on my plate. This I can gladly and honestly say I am truly grateful for, and I couldn't imagine life without it. Okay. I and the rest of the group love St. John's because we always come back to it, just as we always come back to our faith with our devotions to God. It's almost as if each time we go on this trip, our bond with God becomes greater and our relationships feels more and more unstoppable. I honestly couldn't ask for any other way to spend a week of my summer. Thank you so much for listening.
Good morning. My name is May Maranello, and this is my 3rd year going on the St. Barnabas mission trip to LA. Every morning we would wake up super early, zombie our way through breakfast, as she said, and we would immediately go to Alexandria House. And once we were there, some of the projects we did were painting. I love painting. We did touch-ups on benches from last year, and we made new cubbies. One of the benches that we had done had Spider-Man on it, and the other one had dinosaurs. Kids loved both. At the start of the week, when we began painting the cubbies, it was all fun and games. We had all these ideas planned out, and we were getting paint organized. By the second day, it was less fun, because we had already switched our plans several times. We finally settled on doing a Pokemon theme, and we started sketching our first design. Part of the way through the day, I looked up at the sky and said, please, please let there be rain. And sure enough, right on cue, if only a couple minutes late, it started sprinkling. It was a really nice touch to the day. It was like God sent us a gift to cool us off, give us a break. Except for that one day, the rest of the week was really, really hot. It's a lot of work in the sun. A lot of energy went into the base coats and then sketching out Pokemon and Pokeballs onto the cubbies. While some of us worked on the cubbies, a couple of others hung up clay thumbprints in the labyrinth. The labyrinth was behind the house, behind the garage. It was this really, really pretty little gravel area, and it had these round stones set out to form the labyrinth itself. When I helped with that, we were hanging thumbprints, little clay thumbprints from people in the community up onto the chain link fence that surrounded the labyrinth. There were a few different shades of blue and brown, and we put them up in this really interesting gradient design. It went from light blue all the way down to dark brown on the bottom. So glad that that back area was shaded, because out in front, working on the painting, it was just so hot. As soon as you put paint on the cubbies, it would dry. It was super tiring. The heat really put the pain into painting, as you'd see from several of our sunburns. In the end, it was 100% worth it, though, because the cubbies turned out awesome, and so did the labyrinth. Both of them got a ton of compliments, and all of the women at Alexandria House loved what we'd helped them make. This trip is super important to me because it gave me yet another opportunity to offer my services to God and to help His people.
Hi, my name is Sydney Kovich, and this was my third year going on the mission trip. I just want to thank Kate and all of the leaders for making this trip possible and for being our parents for the week. Every day we work at the Alexandria House, which is a shelter for women and children that provides a safe and loving environment while helping the women become independent again. Every year I see God at work in the house because of the love, positivity, and selflessness of its community. Our welcome is always warm, but this year it felt especially inviting because on our first day, all of the women who run the house came to say hi, express their gratitude, and give us our assignments for the week. A few of our projects were to organize the basement and the third floor linen closet. Before we began, each were full of boxes and could not be used because they were overflowing with supplies. After hours of work, lots of suction bags, and a label maker, both the closet and the basement could be used efficiently. If a woman is just coming into the house desperate and with no personal belongings, or if she has felt the house's magic and is becoming independent again, she can quickly gather what she needs, whether it's a bed set or hygiene products, and mark her takings off of the inventory we created. On a similar note, a few of us weeded the backyard and washed all of the outdoor toys so the children can quickly and safely choose the toys they want to play with. Because the Alexandria House is a nonprofit and simply does not have the woman power to do these hot and sweaty jobs without volunteers, it feels great to provide a service that they would not be able to have themselves. Judy, who runs the house, and the rest of the staff and women within the community were so appreciative of our hard work. Another amazing service available for the neighborhood, current, and previous residents of the Alexandria House is free childcare, which provides the children with a safe, educational, and positive environment, especially during the summer. The kids at the house have gone through such difficult situations, yet they are always so cheerful and full of life. Each child's energy is so unique and brightens any room. The women who work in the childcare are saints and are so appreciative to all volunteers because they want to make an unimaginably hard time for the children a little bit easier on them. A few things I've learned by going on the trip for the last 3 years are that it's never too early to give and you can never be too generous. At the Alexandria House, the residents are in such a vulnerable space, many of them facing desperation and escaping domestic violence. Having the firsthand experience of working for and with the women and children and seeing their gratitude helped me strengthen my relationship with Christ because it taught me to be more selfless, just as He is, no matter the circumstances. Thanks.
Okay, hi. My name is Caitlin Harold, and this would be my third year, though not consecutively. And, well, oh, right here? Okay. Well, the fourth night we worked at the mission, I was assigned to the residence line. Now, to give you an idea of the layout, there's a main cafeteria right in front, and they serve the bulk of the homeless people. And there's a side cafeteria, which is both for the people who work at the mission and for the people in recovery and the people in the programs who are slowly improving their lives through the many programs that the mission offers. Now, by the fourth night, I'd worked pretty much everywhere. I'd been out on the floor, I'd served bread, I'd served salad, I had made as many types of corn as you can make. And, okay, side note, here's a pro tip. When you get the choice between any other food and salad, you choose that other food. Just trust me on that one. So, when the fourth night came around and Kate was like, hey, I want you to do residence line, all I heard was not salad, and I was jazzed, you better believe it. Well, the first thing that really hits you about the residence line is actually what doesn't hit you. Like, in the main line, everything's going so fast, and especially on your first time, you're like scrambling to get all the food in the trays, and and it can be kind of panicky the first time you ever do it. But on the residence line, we'd go into the line, and I was struggling to work a potato scoop, and the residents would stop, they'd wait for you, they'd smile, make conversation and jokes. And it was really the first time I kind of felt like I was connecting with the people on the line, like being able to look them in the eyes, ask them how their day was for more than 2 seconds. And I think that was when I really started to see God in my ability to connect with people. When I had gone out on the mission, one of the important things for me was to serve people, and through serving people to serve God. And I saw God through the people who were improving their lives on the other side of the line, that no matter how bad things are, you can still go up, you can still keep going. And that was one of the really inspirational things. Well, and right there, that was where my faith just kind of grew. Well, one of the best parts about the line was my leader, Ann Shannon. So she was working beside me, and she was scooping this odd fish pasta dish. I couldn't tell you what it was. It changed. Like, the first time it was salmon stroganoff, then it was seafood pasta, tuna pasta, salmon pasta, and I think for a while there it settled on a tuna surprise. So, was it really tuna? That was a surprise. Well, okay, but whatever we were serving, I have honestly never seen someone so excited to serve tuna surprise than my leader, Ann. Like, she was so adorable. She was offering people, she was changing the name. She was like doing everything she could to hand out some more tuna surprise. And well, about 45 minutes in, we still, unfortunately have a lot of tuna surprise left. And this lady comes in, and I remember her because a few days later we'd seen her out in the main mall eating a little, and comes to the line and she sees the tuna surprise, and she just lights up. And she was like, I've been waiting for this all week. She was so excited. She had Ann scoop her 3 scoops, so her tray was almost uncarryable with the amount of tuna surprise it was weighed down with. And God, just to see her eyes light up like that, man, the entire evening, the entire line was worth just that lady's happiness. And, well, thank you for listening.
Hi. My name is Joseph Schmidt, and this is my second year on the mission trip. I had such a great time on the mission trip, but I'm here to talk about the chefs and volunteers in the Midnight Mission. We help feed the homeless and help prepare the food with the chefs. I can't tell you how much, when I was down or really tired, the chefs made me feel like I was in the line at the newest ride at Disneyland. I realized I was so blessed to help others that I never complained about anything when asked to do something. I would want to talk about how hard some of the chefs and volunteers worked, like the head chef in the Midnight Mission, James. He works almost every day and makes some of the best seasoned food I'd ever had. When I asked him for more food or to prepare and serve the homeless, he never said no and was always there for us. Also, he had all of our backs, so if anything went wrong, he would take care of it. There was also a volunteer named Robert who was homeless 11 years ago. He was on narcotics for 5 years and needed the light of the Lord to get him off the street. He was shut out by his family and did not have any friends to rely on at the time, so he lived in a dumpster with rats and bugs. Until one day, he prayed to the Lord and said, "Lord, I cannot do this by myself." And that night, his ex-wife showed up and said that she was going to get help, so he didn't have to live like that anymore. He hadn't seen her in almost 10 years, and all of that just shows up. That's the work of the Lord. The Lord won't show up and tell you what to do, but he tells others to help you and show you the light. The Lord sends so many chances to help you, and you have to take them, even if it isn't him specifically. I love working with the chefs and volunteers because they all have a story to tell, and each one is unique in its own way. I saw God at work through everyone because we can't just think of ourselves all the time. We have to think on how to help each other, and that's what I saw on this mission trip. I grew in my faith over the week because there isn't any difference in us or the chefs and volunteers or the homeless, because God has a purpose for everyone and shows us what path to take. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Annalisa Schmidt, and I've been going on this trip for the past 2 years. Every time I go, it is more exhilarating, exciting, and entertaining. The part of the trip that really changed me in different ways was the Midnight Mission. People who volunteer at the mission have many jobs. For example, there was the residence line, the serving line, and those who serve food to the handicapped. When our group arrived at the Midnight Mission, the staff are always so ecstatic when they see our hard-working faces. They always like it when we come because we clean up after we are done. And we also bond with the workers compared to other volunteers who just come and go and maybe just get their service hours. We've been coming to the Midnight Mission for the past 9 years. I saw God at work in each one of us. He was with us even when we felt uncomfortable doing something. He was always there. He made sure we were safe. I also saw God at work in all the smiling faces and the pleases and thank yous. Homeless people. My experience with the Midnight Mission was very moving in certain jobs. For example, getting food for the handicapped people was intense because I had to go where all the homeless people were. And I've never done that job before, so it was a new thing to experience. I am glad that I got to experience it because you could talk to some of the people. The serving line was more intense experience. For example, there were pleases and thank yous and people smiling. The part that I didn't like was that I had to say no to the people if they wanted more food. It broke my heart because they have been starving for as long as days, weeks, or even months. I just wish I could have given them as much food as I wanted. I had such a hard-working, wonderful, and life-changing experience on this trip. This trip has changed me in so many ways. For example, I don't take for granted the people who love me, of having food on my plate, and at least I have a family to come home to, and a family who loves me very deeply. Most of these people don't have the things we are privileged to have. What Christ means to me is that he will be here with us forever, even when we don't think we need him at that exact moment. This trip has changed me to become a stronger Christian because I got to experience things that I thought I wouldn't ever experience, but in a good way, because if you actually chat with some of the homeless people, they are one of the nicest people. My faith grew stronger with God because the whole time I was thinking, wow, I sure am lucky that I have people who care and love about me. It grew stronger because I felt his presence all the time. My faith grew stronger just being with the people that were here with me last year. My faith definitely grew stronger by working with the homeless people because they have lost so much and they just want to get back on their feet. I realize I'm lucky to be in a place where I have a home and a plate full of food to eat every day. I also learned from this experience that we are all so lucky to have what we have. I can't wait to go on this trip next year. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Kate Fembra. I'm the youth minister and parish life minister, and what a week. What a blessing it was to get to spend time with these really inspiring and encouraging teenagers and adults. But it's not just 1 week. These kids and young people weren't transformed because they took 1 week out of their life and they thought, I'm going to go do something good for 7 days. They do this all the time. They're constantly looking out into our world and saying, God, here I am, send me. They're listening for that call. They're looking for those ways to be transformed, not just 7 days in the month of July, but every month, every day. They see people on the side of the streets, and some of them can't because their parents, as I agree, they don't roll down their windows and hand out money, but you know what they do? They wave and they smile. That's a way of giving. They serve the homeless once a month here at church, where we go out on the streets, because they know, like one of the kids said, the volunteers, all organizations cannot be run unless they have volunteers like them and me and you. Our website is filled with ways to serve in our church and outside in this community. So each one of us needs to listen for that call. God is calling you. God's calling me, and God clearly called them. So today when we leave, let's say, here I am, Lord, send me. And listen how God can use us in this world, a world that is full of hurt and sorrow and pain, and let us be that joy. Let us be that love. Let us be that transforming light in this world. Amen.